Here are the answers for the Chapter 5 study guide. For problems 1 through 4, you are completing the indicated operation and simplifying your answer if possible. So for the first one, the first thing you're going to do is factor. So in the top one, I can factor out a 3. So I'm going to get 2x plus 3 over, I can't factor out anything in the bottom, 2x minus 3 times, because I'm going to flip them. So I'm going to factor this one, put it on the top, which is going to factor into 2x minus 3 and x plus 1. And the bottom is going to factor into, I can pull out a 3, and it's going to factor into x minus 5 and x plus 1. So you can box and diamond it, however you want to factor it. Once you have everything factored, you can start eliminating things. So I can cross out this 2x minus 3 and this 2x minus 3, these 3's, and the x plus 1's. So my final answer is 2x plus 3 over x minus 5. Problem number 2, I'm subtracting. So first I got to find a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by m plus 3 over here. And over here, m minus 4. So on the top, I'm going to get 5m squared minus 20m over m minus 4 m plus 3 minus, on the top on the other side, I have to distribute it. So I'm going to get 2m squared plus 11m plus 15 over m minus 4 m plus 3. So then when I combine like terms, I do 5m squared minus 2m squared, which is going to give me a 3m squared. Nope, I forgot the m. Negative 20m plus minus 11 is going to be minus 31m. Then it's going to be minus 15 all over m minus 4 times m plus 3. And I cannot factor the top, so that's going to be my final answer. Problem number 3, I'm going to factor it and then see if I can cancel anything out. So for the top, I factor it to 5x minus 1 times x minus 2 over x plus 4, 2x plus 3 times x plus 6, x plus 4 over 2x plus 3 sorry, when I did this, this one should have been x plus 4 as well. The 2x plus 3 goes over here. I was looking at the wrong fraction, and then 5x minus 1. So then I simplify as much as I possibly can. So the 5x minus 1's cancel out. The x plus 4's cancel. And I'm left with x minus 2 times x plus 6 over x plus 4 times 2x plus 3. And I can actually leave it like that. You can distribute it out if you want to, but you do not have to. Then in problem number 4, my denominators are already the same, so I don't have to factor anything. I can just go straight to combining. So I do 3a squared minus 2a squared, which is going to give me a squared. A minus negative a is going to give me 2a. Negative 1 minus 2 is going to give me negative 3, all over a squared minus 2a plus 1. So then I want to make sure that I factor it to see if there's anything I can cancel so I can simplify it. So I'm going to factor the top and get a plus 3 times a minus 1, or a minus 1 times a minus 1. So the a minus 1's cancel, And my final answer is a plus 3 over a minus 1. Okay. So problem number 5, you're solving the system of inequalities. So the first one, first I put it into y equals mx plus b form. So I rewrote it as 4y is less than negative 3x plus 12, and then divided everything by 4. So I had 4 is less than negative 3x over 4 plus 3. So then I graphed that. So I started at positive 3. And it's going to be a dotted line because it's less than not equal to. The second one is a parabola with a vertex of -1, -4. And then I just plotted a couple more points for it. And it's a solid line because it's less than or equal to. So then they're both less than, which means when we go to shade, we're going to shade just underneath them both. So the shading would happen right here. Okay. Problem number 6, it says solve each equation. So the first thing I'm going to do for 6 is I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So I get 1.25 to the x equals 27. And then since it's exponential, I change it into a logarithm. So I'm going to do the log of 1.25 of 27 equals x. And then I just put it right in my calculator and got x is approximately 14.77. For 7, the first thing I'm going to do is divide by 4. So then I got 5 to the x minus 1 equals 62.5. I rewrote it as a logarithm, so the log of base 5 of 62.5 equals x minus 1. Plug that into my calculator, and then I added 1 to both sides. So I do the logarithm first and then add 1, so I got x to be approximately 3.57. Problem number 8, multiply the following polynomials. So I would just box it out. So I get 3x and -5 and 3x and -5. So I'm going to get 9x squared, -15x, -15x, 25. So I'm going to simplify and I get 9x squared minus 30x plus 25. For 9, I'm going to do the same thing, except that one of my boxes is going to be 3. So I get x squared, -3x, and 7. So when I multiply, I'm going to get 4x cubed, -12x squared, 28x, -3x squared, 9x, and -21. So I combine like terms and my final answer is going to be 4x cubed minus 15x squared plus 37x minus 21. Rewrite the equation in equivalent logarithms. So this one I would write the log base of 8 of 512 equals 3. And 11, the log with a base of r of m equals d. Problem number 12, I'm finding the inverse. So in these types of problems, you're going to reverse x and y and solve for y. So in this first one, I would make it x equals y minus 4 squared plus 5. And then I'm just going to solve. So minus x. So I get x minus 5 is y minus 4 squared. So I need to take the square root of both sides. So I get the square root of x minus 5 equals y minus 4, and then I add 4 to both sides. And you want to be clear about where your square root ends up. So it's going to be f of, our final answer, we want to write it out as f, the inverse of x equals, it's the square root of x minus 5 and then plus 4. So I want to make sure that plus 4 is on the outside. Okay, for g, I'm going to do the same thing. So I get x equals 2 to the y plus 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I get x minus 3 equals 2 to the y. So I have to change it into a logarithm. So I'm going to rewrite it as y equals the log of base 2 of x minus 3. That's going to be my answer. Problem 14 says, based on the graph below, please draw the inverse. So I labeled my points. So just to kind of help me out to see where everything was. So this is -5, -9. The top vertex is -1, 7. This point right here is 2, -2. This point here is 6, -6. And then I have 9, -3. So then when I went to graph it, I then switched them. So I graphed -9, -5. Then I graphed -1, so 7, -1. And then -2, 2. So that's kind of where the part that looks like a parabola was. And then it went down to 6, -6. So it's going to be -6, 6. And then -3, 9. It was like an open circle. So the inverse should look about like that. Problem number 15, we want to factor each of the following. So for the first one, we want to pull out a 7x. So I'm going to get, actually a 7x squared, I'm going to get x squared minus 4. X squared minus 4 is the difference of two squares. So I get 7x squared, x plus 4, x minus 4. So then 16, I can pull out an x, and then I'm left with x squared plus x minus 14. And then I can box and diamond it, or which would give us in the end 3x plus 7 and x minus 2. 17, evaluate g of f of -3. So then you're going to plug in -3 for f of x. So you're going to do f of -3 first and get 2 -3 squared minus 5. So I'm going to get 9, 18 minus 5, which is 13. And then I'm going to plug 13 in for g and do g of 13. So I get 13 times 3 plus 8, 39 plus 8. So my final answer is 47. 18, I'm going to do it the opposite way. I'm going to plug -3 into g of x first. So I do -3 plus 8. So I'm going to get -9 plus 8, or -1. And then I find f of -1. So I'm going to get +1 times 2, or 2 minus 5, which is -3. So that's my answer for the second one. For the last part, I am going to, for each of the following, find the inverse, show mathematical thought used to determine the inverse. So these are the same types of problems as a couple before, where I'm going to switch x and y and solve for y. So this is going to be x equals y squared plus 6. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So I get x minus 6 equals y squared. And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I get y to the negative equals the square root of x minus 6. Or I could say f to the -1 of x. So problem number 20. So I'm going to get x equals the cube root of x plus 1, y plus 1, minus 5. So first I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I'm going to get x plus 5. Then I'm going to cube both sides. So I'm actually just going to leave it x plus 5 to the third power equals y plus 1, and then subtract 1 from both sides. So my final answer is g to the negative 1 of x equals x plus 5 cubed minus 1. And then 21, x equals 2 groups of y minus 7 over 9 plus 5. So I subtract 5 first, and I get x minus 5 equals 2 groups of y minus 7 over 9. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9. So I'm going to get 9x minus 45 equals 2 groups of y minus 7. So I'm going to divide by 2. So now I'm going to get 9x minus 45 over 2 equals y minus 7, and add 7 to both sides. So h to the negative 1 of x is going to equal 9x minus 45 over 2 plus 7. And I can leave it like that. I could simplify further if I wanted to, but at this point, there's no need to.